I knew something was wrong the moment the balloons started to sag. That they'd been bright and proud an hour ago, bouncing against the ceiling like they were celebrating too. Now they hung limp. The smiley face ones turning slowly in the summer air while the frosting on Harper's cake began to sweat. It was 3:17 p.m. The party had started at 2, maybe Grandma's just running late. Harper asked. Her little pink dress crinkled when she turned toward the door. She'd picked it herself, a sparkly thing that made her feel like a princess. The bow in her hair drooped a little now, like it was tired of waiting too. Maybe, I said, forcing a smile. You know how Grandma likes to make an entrance. Inside, my stomach was twisting. My phone sat face down on the counter, but I could feel it. No vibrations, no calls, nothing. Silence. The kind that says more than any excuse ever could. The backyard looked perfect. I'd rented the white tent, strung fairy lights through the trees, even borrowed folding tables from the church. Harper's friends were laughing by the bubble machine. Parents mingled, sipping lemonade. Everything looked picture perfect except for the empty chairs labeled family. I'd written their names myself on little chalkboard signs. Mom and Dad. Tanya and Jeff. Eli. Mia, all empty. I kept glancing at them, waiting for headlights to appear in the driveway. But only the shadows lengthened. At 3:45, Harper's best friend Sophie ran up. Miss Price, are we gonna sing yet? The ice cream's melting. Of course we are, I said, clapping my hands. Everybody gather around. I lit 9 candles. Harper's eyes sparkled. She took a deep breath and blew with everything she had. Everyone cheered. Cameras flashed. For a moment, the world was right again. Then Harper whispered, "Can we wait for Grandma before we cut it?" I swallowed hard. Sweetheart, I think she might come later. Let's just, the words stuck in my throat. I saw the flicker of understanding in her eyes, that small, painful flicker kids get when they realize adults lie to protect them. We cut the cake anyway. When the last guests left, I walked through the quiet yard collecting paper cups and torn ribbons. The sun was setting orange over the fence. Harper sat on the porch steps hugging the stuffed unicorn her friend had given her. She wasn't crying, but the silence around her felt heavy. Did Grandma forget? She asked softly. No, baby, I said. Maybe she just got busy. She nodded, pretending to accept it. But I saw her lip tremble. I went inside and grabbed my phone. Still nothing. Finally, I texted the family group chat. Hey, party was wonderful. We missed you guys. Everything okay? The message marked as read almost instantly. Then, nothing. Not a single reply. That was the moment the air seemed to drain from the house. Because in my family, silence never meant peace, it meant punishment. Growing up, I was the responsible one. It wasn't a title I wanted. It was one that stuck to me like gum under a shoe. Mom used to say it like a compliment. Danielle, thank God for you. You always hold this family together. But what she really meant was, you clean up our messes. I was the one who took extra shifts to help with Dad's medical bills. The one who loaned Tanya money for car trouble that somehow turned into vacation photos. The one who bailed Eli out when his business idea tanked again. They said I was reliable. What they meant was predictable. So when Harper was born, I promised myself I'd raise her differently. I'd show her love wasn't measured by how much you sacrifice for people who never show up. Apparently, I still had some learning to do. That night after the party, I tucked Harper into bed. Did you have fun today? She smiled a little. Yeah. But, can we have another party when Grandma comes? Of course, I said, brushing her hair back. We'll make cupcakes. When she fell asleep, I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of wine, and finally let my smile drop. My hands shook as I picked up the phone again. I typed, Mom, I just want to make sure you're all okay. Harper missed you. No answer. 10 minutes later, a notification buzzed, but not a text. A Venmo request, from Tanya, amount, $1,850. Note, your share for me is sweet 16. At first, I laughed. A sharp, bitter sound that didn't feel like me. Then I reread it, $1,850. The same sister who'd skipped Harper's 9th birthday wanted me to pay nearly $2,000 for her daughter's party? I stared at the screen, my wine trembling in my hand. My finger hovered over decline, but part of me couldn't believe this was real. I called Tanya. She picked up on the third ring. Hey, she said, all breezy like nothing was wrong. I could hear music in the background. Her TV, probably. Tanya, I said slowly, you skipped Harper's birthday today. What happened? A pause. Then a sigh. I told Mom to tell you we couldn't make it. Jeff had work, and Mia wasn't feeling great. Okay, I said. But you sent me a Venmo request? Yeah, she said, like I was the crazy one. For Mia's party next week. You know everyone's chipping in. I didn't agree to that. Well, Mom said you would. You make more than us, Danny. Don't make this awkward. That word, awkward, made my blood boil. It was the word she used when she wanted to guilt-trip me without sounding mean. Tanya, I said, my voice steady, you didn't even show up for your niece's birthday. Why would I pay for your daughter's? Because it's family, she snapped. And because you always do. Then she hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. The Venmo screen glowed like an accusation. $1,850. Due Friday. When I looked up, the kitchen clock said 11:07 p.m. The fairy light glow from the backyard still shimmered faintly through the window. Soft and sad. I thought about Harper's face when she'd asked if Grandma forgot her. I thought about every time I'd said yes when I wanted to say no, and for the first time, I felt something shift inside me. I hit decline. The next morning, my phone was buzzing before I even got out of bed. 15 new messages in the family group chat. Mom, Danielle, what's this about you refusing Tanya? That's not how family behaves. Eli, sis, don't make this bigger than it is. Just help out. It's for the kids. Tanya, if you're jealous that Mia's sweet 16 is a bigger deal than Harper's little backyard thing, just say so. I read every word, feeling my pulse in my ears. They didn't even pretend to feel guilty about missing Harper's day. They turned it around, like I was the selfish one. I typed one short reply, I'm not paying for Mia's party. End of discussion. Then I muted the chat. By noon, Mom was calling. By 2, she was leaving voicemails. By 4, Tanya posted a vague Facebook status. Funny how some people only remember family when they need money. I almost threw my phone across the room, but instead, I took a deep breath, grabbed Harper from school, and took her out for ice cream. I wasn't going to let their drama steal another minute from us. Still, that night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop replaying the last few hours. Every ding of my phone sounded like another jab. They weren't used to me saying no. And from the tone of their messages, they weren't planning to take it well. The next day, when I got home from work, a white envelope was taped to my door. No return address. Inside was a printed invoice. Header, Family Event Contribution Agreement. Amount, $1,850. Due date, Friday. Signed, Grace Price, Mom. There was even a little handwritten note at the bottom. We're disappointed, Danielle. You've changed. Please don't ruin this for Mia. My hand shook as I read it. They had actually formalized it. That was the moment the last thread snapped. I grabbed the paper, crumpled it, and tossed it in the trash. My heart was pounding, but underneath the anger, there was something else, clarity. They weren't going to stop unless I stopped them. That Friday, instead of sending money, I sent a text to the family group. No. I'm done. Don't contact me again about money. This conversation is over. Then I blocked Tanya. Then Eli. Then Mom. For the first time in years, my phone was quiet. The silence felt strange at first, like standing in an empty room after years of noise, but slowly, it started to feel like peace until Monday morning, when there was a loud knock on my door. 2 uniformed police officers stood outside. Ms. Price? One asked. We received a report from your family. Something about an unpaid agreement and possible fraud. And that's where everything changed. I stared at the officers, the world tilting a little. Fraud? I repeated, half laughing, half terrified. What are you talking about? The taller cop checked his notes. A Mrs. Grace Price filed a report. Claims there was an agreement among family members to pool money for an event, and you reneged after receiving funds from a joint account. I never received a dime, I said, heat rising in my face. They're just angry because I wouldn't pay for my niece's birthday. The 2 men exchanged a glance that said, we've heard weirder. Mind if we step in for a moment, ma'am? I let them in. Harper was still at school. Thank God. The kitchen still smelled faintly of frosting and disinfectant from cleaning after her party. I laid the ridiculous invoice on the table. That's all there is. No contract. No signature. Just guilt trips. They studied it for a beat before one finally sighed. Yeah, this doesn't look criminal. More like a family dispute. Exactly, I said, exhaling. My hands were shaking. They wanted to scare me. The officer's tone softened. You'd be surprised how often people use us to settle personal grudges. You're not in trouble. But if this continues, you can file a harassment report. I nodded numbly, thanked them, and watched their cruiser pull away. Then I shut the door and leaned against it until my knees stopped trembling. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. That evening, Harper came home waving a crayon drawing. Look, Mommy. It's you and me at the party. She'd drawn balloons, a giant cake, and just the 2 of us smiling in the center. No Grandma. No Aunt Tanya. No Uncle Eli. Something in my chest cracked open. I pulled her close. It's perfect, sweetheart. While she colored at the table, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then another. And another. When I finally checked later that night, all 3 were from Mom. Danielle, you didn't have to call the cops. That was dramatic. We just wanted fairness. You're always so difficult lately. If you think isolating yourself makes you better than us, you're wrong. Her voice had that clipped, icy edge that used to make me shrink as a kid. But now it just sounded small. I deleted every message. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. At work, I kept waiting for something, an email, a confrontation, anything. But nothing came. Harper and I settled into a calm routine again. Mornings with cereal and cartoons, evenings with homework and bedtime stories. For the first time in years, my life was mine. Then, Friday night, the quiet broke. My friend Natalie called. "Danny, are you okay?" "I'm fine, why?" She hesitated. "Because Tanya just posted a whole Facebook rant about you. Said you stole money from the family fund and called the police to cover it up." I closed my eyes. Of course she did. She even posted screenshots of that fake invoice. People in the comments are tearing you apart. It felt like a punch. She used my full name? Yeah. Look, do you want me to report it? No, I said after a long pause. Let her dig her own hole. But that night, after Harper went to bed, I opened Facebook anyway. There it was. A long, rambling post full of half-truths and outright lies, signed off with, "Some people think being responsible gives them the right to treat family like garbage. I hope karma visits them soon." Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments. People from our hometown chiming in, most siding with her. And my mother had commented a single line, "We raised her better than this." I felt something inside me snap. The next morning, I brewed coffee, sat down, and opened my laptop. I wasn't going to stoop to their level, but I also wasn't going to stay silent. I wrote, "To those who've heard my family's version of events. Here's the truth. I hosted a birthday for my daughter last weekend. None of them came. Not my mother, not my siblings. They didn't even call." The next day, I got a bill, yes. A literal invoice, for $1,850 to pay for my niece's sweet 16. When I said no, they sent police to my door with a fake fraud claim. If standing up for myself makes me the villain in their story, so be it. But I'm done paying to earn love that should have been free. Then I hit post. Within minutes, friends commented, messages of support flooded in. Even distant cousins I hadn't heard from in years DM'd to say they were proud of me. The truth had sunlight now, and my family couldn't hide behind their narrative anymore. By Monday, Tanya deleted her post. Mom sent a terse text, "You didn't have to air our laundry. Family matters stay private." I replied, "They stopped being private when you involved the police." Then I blocked her too. Eli was next. He texted that night, "Mom's upset. You could have handled this better." I didn't respond. I just turned off my phone and sat on the couch, Harper asleep beside me, fairy lights twinkling in the window again. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. Tired, but freed. It's funny how peace creeps in slowly. The first weekend without family drama felt strange. No guilt trips, no late night calls about who owed who. Just Harper and me at the farmer's market, buying flowers and laughing over lemonade. One night, as we drove home with the windows down, Harper asked, "Mom, are we still part of Grandma's family?" I thought about it. We'll always be family by blood, honey. But sometimes, love makes a new family. She smiled. Like us? Exactly like us. That night, I tucked her in and realized, this was what freedom looked like. Quiet evenings. Honest laughter. No more walking on eggshells. Then, as I turned off the light, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. "You think you've won, Danielle? Family doesn't forget. You'll regret embarrassing us." No name. But I didn't need one. I blocked the number. Deleted the text, and exhaled, because for the first time, I wasn't afraid of them anymore. A month later, I got a letter from a lawyer, a cease and desist from my mother and Tanya, accusing me of defamation. My attorney friend laughed when I showed him. "They've got nothing," he said. "Empty threats." I smiled. That's all they've ever had. The letter went straight into the shredder. That evening, Harper and I baked cupcakes, vanilla with pink frosting, and ate them right from the pan. She sang softly to herself, a tune I didn't recognize, and I thought, maybe this is what rebirth feels like. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady peace after a lifetime of noise. And when Harper whispered, "Next year, can we invite Grandma again?" I kissed her forehead and said gently, "We'll see." Because the truth was, I didn't know. Maybe someday there'd be forgiveness. But not today. Today belonged to us. And for the first time in my life, being the responsible one didn't mean carrying everyone else's weight. It meant choosing myself. After I shredded that so-called legal letter, I realized something. People like my family only understood power when you showed them you had it. Words didn't work. Begging never worked. But paper trails did. For years I'd kept records, bank transfers, texts, the little loans they'd promised to pay back. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder I used to label family budget help. I'd stopped updating it months ago. But the files were still there, every receipt. Every message that started with, "Can you spot me just this once?" I started organizing everything. The transfers to Tanya for her rent that mysteriously became concert tickets. The Venmo requests from Eli labeled "car emergency" that lined up with casino withdrawals. Even Mom's old messages asking me to cover Dad's prescriptions when Dad's insurance had already paid. By midnight I had a tidy, color-coded spreadsheet. Not revenge yet, just truth. The next morning, I called my friend Claire, who worked in accounting. Hypothetically, I asked, if someone kept proof that their family borrowed over 15 grand under false reasons, what would that be? She didn't even pause. Fraud. At least civil fraud. Why? I smiled. No reason. That weekend, I opened a new email draft. I attached every document, every screenshot, every timestamped request. Then I addressed it to my family. To everyone involved, since you've chosen to involve the police and lawyers, I've compiled a record of all financial exchanges between us over the last 6 years. Please review before making further claims. Danielle, no anger. No threats. Just evidence. I hit send. An hour later, my phone exploded. Mom called first. Danielle, what are you trying to do? Destroy the family? I kept my voice steady. I'm protecting myself, Mom. You opened that door when you filed that police report. Tanya texted next. Are you crazy? You sent this to everyone? Yes, I wrote back. Transparency helps everyone, remember? Then I put my phone face down and went about my day. By evening, the call stopped. The silence was different now, less angry, more panicked. They knew I had receipts, and worse, that I wasn't bluffing. On Monday, I got an email from Jeff, my brother-in-law, the sensible one. Hey Danny, Tanya's freaking out. She didn't know you kept all that. Mom's worried you'll take it to court. Can we talk? I read it twice before replying. Tell them all I don't want money. I just want peace. But if they ever harass me again, legally, financially, or online, I'll file a report with everything attached. He never wrote back. A week later, I received another knock on my door, but this time, it wasn't the police. It was a courier. Inside the envelope was a check for $1,850. The memo line read, reimbursement, error. No note. No apology. But I didn't need one. I folded the check, put it in a drawer, and never cashed it. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was proof that they knew I'd won. For the first time in months, Harper and I felt normal again. We built a small routine: movie nights, homework at the kitchen table, early morning walks with the dog. My shoulders finally dropped from where they'd lived under my ears. Then, one quiet Thursday, a message slipped into my inbox. From someone I hadn't heard from in a decade, my cousin Leah. Hey Danny, saw what happened online. Just wanted you to know, you did the right thing. Aunt Grace has been doing this to everyone for years. You were just the first one to stop playing along. That one line hit harder than all the apologies I'd never get. Because that was the truth. They weren't angry that I was wrong. They were angry that I was the first to walk away. A month later, Harper's school hosted a family day. I almost didn't go, old habits die hard, but Harper begged. So we went, just the two of us. When I signed the attendance sheet, the teacher smiled. I'm glad you came, Miss Price. Harper's talked about you nonstop. She says her mom's the bravest person she knows. I laughed, embarrassed. She does? She said you taught her how to stand up for herself. That one line nearly undid me, because standing up hadn't felt brave, it had felt terrifying. But maybe bravery was just choosing yourself even when no one clapped. Later that night, after Harper fell asleep, I went to my desk and opened the drawer where the check sat. I tore it in half. Then again, until it was nothing but confetti. I wasn't their ATM anymore. I wasn't their scapegoat. I wasn't the responsible one who fixed everything while they broke me. I was just Danielle Price. And that was finally enough. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and opened my window to the sound of birds and traffic. My phone sat silent on the counter. No missed calls. No demands. No guilt. For the first time in years, that silence didn't scare me. It sounded like peace.